is a game released in 2009 on these platforms developed by Platinum Games, coming straight out of Japan in the same triennial that many gamers regard as the best years for video games in history. It was only something you learned about after looking through various gameplay trailers and thinking, what in the f is going on here? How do I buy it? Bayonetta is an extremely campy cinematic action game that feels similar to an interactive movie. As you would expect, you play as Bayonetta, a sexy badass witch with guns attached to her hands and feet. It's the first in a series of 3 games, 2 of which I've played. So my experience was a very weird concoction of button mashing, long legs, and breakdancing. So let me cook a little bit. But the creative risks oozing out of the project, it simply could not have existed without the financial help of Uncle Sega to come in and publish it for them. Quoted as an action game evolved from the Devil May Cry series, you know. That's what the title's for. Which comes specifically from the director, so let's talk about him a little bit. He is a man with mega titles under his belt, such as Beautiful Joe, wink wink, I may or may not be talking about that eventually, Resident Evil 1 and 2, and of course, the introduction to the mega series, Devil May Cry. A European story slapped with thick inspirations of Norse mythology, with our titular woman being based on this guy's version of a ideal woman. Don't look that up, trust me, it's true. I mean, look at her. You just gotta agree, right? Fly me to the moon and let me play. As you can tell, this guy has an immaculate sense of humor, considering the name of the dev team, Team Little Angels, which is a clear reference to the Capcom team behind Devil May Cry, Team Little Devils. Oh, and that clip too.
Oh yes. Bust a cap in yo ass.
Of course, if there hadn't been Devil May Cry, there wouldn't have been Bayonetta.
デビルの頃はもともとバイオシリーズで開発してたっていうのがあって、バイオっぽいこうシステムがまだ残ってたんですけどもね、今回も本当にゼロから3D バトルアクションゲームを作るっていうことで、本当にピュアに。
The original Devil May Cry is the earliest incarnation of Resident Evil 4. This guy's attempt at making a action-based Resident Evil game. You know, the story's funny because at the time, Capcom denied this action Resident Evil game, but then later released this fucking thing, and then all of a sudden now it's okay. Bayonetta is a special game in many ways. One so passionate, they made sure to get every part of her perfect, and I mean every part. Just look at this quote. The gameplay is heavily inspired by Devil May Cry, yet quickly joined the leaderboards for the best hack-and-slash video games of all time, which then built a good reputation for Platinum for great action games such as Astral Chain, Nier, and Babylon's Fall. God, I forgot about that one. Oh man. Bayonetta is the stupefied and exaggerated nature of Dante dialed up to 1000 in the form of wonderful finesse. They achieved what many couldn't do nowadays in a nice, concise 11 to 13 hour perfume-filled gift basket. A colossally stupid and unique, beautiful experience that is entertaining no matter how many times you go and replay it. That is the true core of what makes Bayonetta special. Every cutscene, action sequence, every little butt sway she does, all of them have very particular intentions behind them. I'm sure many don't care, but a good parallel is this versus anime fan service. Anime fan service is dog doo-doo, stinky, dumb garbage, but this has meaning. Anyway, Bayonetta takes place in Vingrid, a fictional city in Europe, which is where all the architecture and all the posh-ass vibes come from. The sense of scale and beauty that shines through each environment is wonderful, tinged with very small details that you don't really notice are there, but add to the overall experience. Going as far as putting such little details such as the targeting icon being a pair of lips, or instead of blood coming out, it's flower petals whenever she takes damage. As for the story, creepy angels bad, sexy witches good. You get the idea. Majority of the plot involves these amazingly well animated slapstick action sequences combined with the film reel images that act as part of the storytelling. These are the cutscenes, I guess, the main cutscenes. I would assume that this is a stylistic choice rather than a limited one. I won't lie, I played through the game like 2.5 times and I still didn't understand exactly what's going on in the story. So instead, I will speculate on what the story was trying to tell us. Bayonetta herself is an illegitimate child born between two European factions, the Lumen Sages and the Umbra Witches, controllers of light and dark respectively. Also known as the left and right eyes of the realm, preserving balance between the two. Whatever the fuck the eye thing is, I don't know, that's weird. But that is clearly forbidden, a big no sandwich. Bayonetta was then outcasted, fated to be locked away because you must never intertwine light and dark, wiping out nearly all of the followers of both clans except for two: Bayonetta, the last Umbra Witch, and Baldur, the last of the Lumen Sages. I neglected to mention that there's two witches, not one. It's Bayonetta and Jean. Now this is where it gets a little confusing. Bayonetta herself is the illegitimate child, therefore her mother would be the one presented in those film reel cutscenes. However, Bayonetta was in a deep slumber for 500 years. From there she delves into Vingren to find the other eye. We learn later that that's actually her in those cutscenes, when she later regains her memories. But wait, that child, Cereza, actually is Bayonetta too, and we can only assume she calls her Mummy because she looks just like Bayonetta's mom. So that kid is Bayonetta, and her mom is the... Like, well, I'm already confused. Well, at least that's my idea of it. Truthfully, I almost believed that Bayonetta from the third game was the kid, and Bayonetta from 1 is the mother of that kid. But as far as I know, every Bayonetta is the same up until the third game. There's just some weird anime storytelling that happens in the first game that makes it confusing. While he claims that the story is completely original, I still would say that it is the weakest part of the game with how little sense it makes sometimes. Even in the third game, after playing both, they're both still confusing. To truly embrace the spontaneous nature of this game, I'll talk about the rest of the game in what seems like a sporadic order. But first, let's finally crush the beef of the Devil May Cry versus Bayonetta argument. First, by mentioning that I never actually played any of the Dante May Cry games because I never actually had a PS2 as a kid. So we're not actually gonna talk about them. I'm just kidding. Let's watch it together. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, hey, look, that looks pretty familiar, man. I mean, I don't, you know, they kind of look the same. The gameplay of Bayonetta is quite simple. Angels have come into the realm, you're an Umbra Witch, so you must beat the shit out of them. You have a shoot button, you have a punch button, you have a kick button, and the most important of all, you have a dodge one. With a various amount of combo actions if you either hold down the button, pause between them, or press them while in the air. The basic idea is to combine all these factors to attain the highest possible combo you can, as fast as you can, with taking as little damage as possible. But there's a catch. Dying reduces your overall rating, and so does using items. That last bit is exactly what makes this game so difficult. Since this isn't Dark Souls, enemies don't have poise, so more often than not, you must simply get good and learn to dodge their attacks. And if you learn to dodge at the last possible moment, you activate Witch Time. Oh my god, that kind of hurt. Which is a short burst of time stop that allows you to punish a tight opening from enemies' attacks, along with a variety of wonderful unique weapons to equip on both your hands and feet respectively. Some better than others. Fuck this weapon, by the way. And that is where the incredible amount of replayability comes from. Yet, this is not the only thing you'll be doing through your adventures of Ass Shot Simulator. There are various mini-games that turn the game into separate genres, from Star Fox style gameplay shooting to Mario Kart to weird QuickTime events. And while I'm on QuickTime events, can we all agree that we should just stop having them? For the most part, they don't even fit in every scenario that they're in. A good example is back when I played Phantom Liberty. There's a lot of these like weird action QuickTime events in the beginning of the game during the expansion, but then just never after that. Bayonetta is probably one of the most well-done action-filled video games I've ever played. Do we really need such low-hanging fruit, such a QuickTime events? I mean, oh, sorry. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of situations where they just don't fit in. Except that one. Like, that one. That one. that one. This one is still funny. As a package, Bayonetta is a marvel to play. Any kind of gamer can pick up this game and feel like an epic gamer while still sucking hot ass at it. But god Damn it. Weirdly, specific faults still persist between these two games. Targeting and the camera system. Whatever direction Bayonetta attacks, that's where the camera will auto-target. While there is a button to lock onto enemies, you must hold it down for the lock-on to persist. So you end up with this weird spider finger combination trying to hold down the lock-on button, move your analog to move around, and then also do combos with your one thumb that you have. Of course, the camera is controllable with the right analog stick, but what makes it particularly goofy is that it will always reset to a predetermined angle no matter how much you move it around. During all the combat sections, you're going in, fucking doing your combos, doing all this shit. You go to turn to another enemy, and the camera guy's just like, whoa there, Buster. You need to aim this way in particular. Whoa. What I love about it is that rather than being hard, it's difficult to master the gameplay. On top of that, multiplied to an odd jankiness the more enemies that appear on screen. There's a lot of times where during combat, you can't see shit. You just can't. Just give up, dude. You cannot see anything. I made a video about a year ago, back when Bayonetta 3 first came out, and while I wish I could have done it more justice, all the criticisms that I had still reigned true even back to the first game.
It happens with a lot of these action games, but I don't know, I particularly feel it here for some reason. And it's the targeting combined with the camera. They don't seem to work amazingly together.
Incredible gameplay with a variety of weapons, with insanely memorable boss fights, and a pretty banging soundtrack, but held back by the slightly janky camera and questionable storytelling, with a sweet cherry on top of needing an obligatory mod to have the correct button prompts. But I can't really say that that is entirely their fault, but it should be there. I'm tired of saying fucking Xbox prompts when I use my PS4 controller. I also want to say that I think Bayonetta 1 and 2 will probably have the best environments throughout the series. While being a virgin on the second game, it still has the angels in it, so it's probably up there anyway. With Bayonetta 3 having the best combat, obviously, being the most evolved, yet also lacking in the story. Don't know what it is with his works and storytelling, but they're always the weakest point out of the games, coming out extremely generic a lot of the time. I feel strongly about Bayonetta because it's always a fun game no matter what gameplay you engage in. Something that will always be near and dear to my heart. I will probably play the second game sometime soon. Whether or not I'll make a video about it is up for debate. You guys can let me know if you want to see that. That was Bayonetta May Cry. It's a classic masterpiece. You should play it. I love her, and I hope you'll love her too. Take care, everyone.